Welcome back, listeners, to the BizBlend podcast, where we go beyond business and talk about the bold human stories that power it. I'm your host, Sana, and today's guest doesn't just talk about resilience. He has lived it across continents, crisis, and callings. Now, imagine being a five-time immigrant, starting over again and again in countries where you knew no one, had no safety net, and had to rebuild from scratch. And now imagine pushing through to graduate from NYU, qualifying for the Olympic Games, leading clients through the 2008 and 9 financial crisis, and then walking away from it all to serve a nation in collapse. That's the journey of today's guest, listeners. A man who vanished from Wall Street and returned with a mission to help heroes fly. Literally. He's the founder of wingsforheroes.org, a nonprofit helping wounded veterans in Ukraine reclaim strength, dignity, and joy. Meet Lyubim Kogan. And this conversation is about more than business, listeners. It's about how to lead when no one's watching, when there is no map, and when the world tells you to play it safe, but your soul says otherwise. So, with that, Loving, welcome to the show, and I'm, as usual, honored to have you here with us.
Hi, Sana. It's nice to hear you again. And that was a really wonderful introduction. I was thinking that you were talking about somebody else, but thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
No, but it's really really you, Loving, and I mean we often just have a very restrictive outlook of what is happening in our world, but where do we, in hindsight, if we compare, the struggles, transformative journeys by others, sometimes our problems, they look too small. So with that, Lovin, you have been a five-time immigrant. I mean, that's something really really very interesting. So what did starting from scratch actually look like for the very very first time when you for the first time immigrated to a foreign country?
Okay, though for me, the foreign country was the United States. And I came to the US in 92, which was 1 year after the Berlin Wall fell and after the Soviet Union collapsed. As you mentioned, I'm originally from Ukraine, and it
Mm-hmm.
was one of the Soviet republics. But a year after Soviet Union collapsed, I was fortunate enough to go to the United States. Now, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I am the child of Cold War. And my real imagination of America, I thought that President Reagan was sitting next to this red button and he could press it at any time and we all died. Like it was,
Mm-hmm.
kids' imagination, but it was real. So
Mm-hmm.
when I was moving to the States, and I think this is really important that you asked this question because I understand that some of you listeners, they're trying to make a better life. We're talking about building a business. And when you read off my accomplishments, I think a lot of people said and thought for themselves, oh, well, nice to be him, right? He did all these wonderful things. So, you know, it's easy for him. But in reality, when I left Ukraine, I
Mm-hmm.
I was a professional skier. And I knew one thing I knew about the United States is that there is a place called Lake Placid. It's in a state called New York. And they had the Olympic Games in 1932 and in 1980. And that's where I was going. Like, I wasn't really going there, but I knew that's the place that I wanted to be. That's where I wanted to ski, and that's where I wanted to train. So I can go for tryouts, hopefully make the tryouts, and then, hopefully qualify for the Olympic Games. Um, the situation in Ukraine at that time was extremely unstable. The crime was really rampant after fall of the Soviet Union, kidnappings everywhere, ransoms. And when people knew that a family is leaving the country, they knew that they sell everything and all they're doing, they have like their belongings and they're sitting on all the cash that they accumulated throughout their life. so you're an easy target. And we left in one night. It really, we packed up in one night. And my dad said, "We're going." I said, "Where?" He said, "We're going to the US." I said, "When?" He said, "In 3 hours." I said, "For how long?" He said, "Forever." And I just graduated high school and I'm standing here. I have 3 hours to pack. So what do I do? I got a bag. I took my ski suit, I took my helmet, and I took my ski boots. I wore my training suit and my running shoes. And I remember at that time I didn't even have socks. You know, I was on the plane. Like some people, the immigrant stories, you hear somebody was coming with $20, $30, but I had $0 and I have no socks. And I'm going to a place that I don't know anything about, but the fact that there were two Olympic Games in this place called Lake Placid. So in my mind, I was going to Lake Placid. I knew where I was going to go. And, when I got there, I was fortunate enough that my uncle wrote to different ski schools. And one of the ski schools said, "Okay, we'll take you and you can come, you can live here, you can study, you can learn English, and you can ski." So free food, free living, free training, free English. But a person who had nothing went to another country across the world and just I followed my dream. We talked about, remember, we talked about, I talk about the fact that we all have two compasses. One compass is in our head and another one is in our heart. And the one in the head always talking and always quieting down the heart. But when you're a kid, like I was 17, I just really at that place in life where I still want to compete. I wasn't ready to finish, and I followed my heart. And there was somebody who said, "Okay, we'll give him a chance. We never had a student from that part of the world. It will be good for our school, so come on over." And that's how that was my first experience of the United States. So for your listeners, if you really want to do something and you think like that journey is impossible, that's how it worked out for me. And I think that if you're following your true calling and that's, your heart compass is telling you like, you really have to do this, like, come on, like, do it. If you go in that direction, I think that the universe just opens up different doors and shows you the way that you need to follow. So, then of course, I trained really hard because I had to be the best to stay in that school. Because I trained so hard and I had good results, it helped me to get into one of the best business schools in the world. And NYU has a really strong mathematics department, so there are a lot of students from India. Like I think our faculty at New York University, it must be half people are from India. I had professors, I had teaching assistants, I had classmates, and the thing is that all of them are really strong, like mathematics. They're one of the strongest people. So basically, you already are an environment where you are developing a quality or skill that you can take across. Our numbers are the same in any language. So here you are you're not at a disadvantage when you're crunching numbers, right? When we speak, we have an accent, we don't understand all the words. But if it comes down to crunching numbers, then the playing field is leveled. And I thought it would be important to share this because you have some advantages that other people don't. And if we're talking about, like US and Canada and India, you have mathematics and other sciences that you're strong in. Plus, you have a huge presence of people from India. CEO of Google is from India. He's Indian.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning of the journey. That's the beginning of the journey. I don't know what you would like for me to share specifically more, but I just want to say, look, I had one bag. I had a ski, jumping boots, suits, helmet. I wore my training suit. I had no socks on, and there we are. How many? 30 plus years later, and I was fortunate to accomplish all the goals, big goals that I set for myself.
The two things come from what you share about your journey. First, I would love to know that um as an 17, 18-year-old boy, completely new, alien to the foreign world, foreign land. And this is coming from, all the immigrant stories I hear from many people here in India, that back in 90s and early 2000s, when they immigrated to, especially the US, food, water, the air, the people, the day-to-day activities, they are completely different. And when you have everything, the basic requirements completely different, sometimes, or most of the times, it definitely affects your mindset. Sometimes you start thinking about how, how you have to adjust with an entire new environment. So how was it, what did the day-to-day survival for you look actually involve or look like?
Okay. Um, at the beginning, I found people who were like me, just other immigrants who were there a little bit longer than I was. And I invited myself to their home to observe how they live, to try to speak English and learn English from somebody who was just a little bit ahead of me. I wasn't going, I'm going to make all these American friends and I'm going to be like them. It's not possible because we are completely different. Our upbringings, our values, the way we see the lens that we look at the world with, it's extremely difficult. Sorry, it's extremely different. But by at first, and I'm saying just it's really important that I would emphasize at first, I was surrounding myself with people who just immigrated, with the ones who really wanted, they had the education was of high value, and they were willing to share their experience. But then once I got into the boarding school, I was living with Americans. And here's the truth, some people are going to pick on you, and some people are going to be really mean, and some people are going to try to humiliate you. Just they will try to look better by making you worthless or by making you less. Or, if we separate worth less, the emphasis would probably here, you are less than me, therefore I look better in the eyes of other people. But those are very few. And I think that, you just have to grow thick skin and know that it's coming. And when it's coming, it's not about you, it's about them. So you just ignore, you ignore all the negative comments, and you really celebrate when you get some positive comments. And I think one thing that we need to understand as an immigrant, when you come, you don't have fallback. Nobody's going to come help you. Nobody's going to save you. So therefore, you have to offer something to people whose country you're entering in. And in my world, it's my word. If I said I would do something, I would die before I stop. If I promise something to somebody else, I always show up on time. If I cannot be on time, I am calling, I'm saying, look, I'm in the car, I'm driving. It looks like I may be late, even though like I may be right on time. And I did a lot of work for free, meaning I needed to learn things. So in my business, right, I would take a case and I would work on it, and I wouldn't care about payments. I really needed to learn how it works. I really needed to understand it. I would deliver work, and sometimes it happens that people would take your work and they don't pay you. But you know what, you get that experience, you get that learning experience. And when you solve big cases, that is something that you can share with other people. You don't share the names, right? But you share the fact that, look, this was this problem with this person, and this is what I did. This is how I did it, and this is the result that we got. And
Yeah.
when people see that you are reliable, then they will choose you. Now, if you go out there and you say, hey, look, man, I am the best in mathematics. I can crunch the numbers better than anybody else. I am going to be top dog on Wall Street, you are not going to be anything, because people don't like it's called arrogance. So
Yeah.
if you have skills, you should hide your skills, but show the results. And by that, I mean that most of my clients didn't know that I went to the Olympics. Many didn't know that I was invited to a symposium to present with Steve Forbes. It was my first break was when I got invited for a symposium in New York City. It's called Success in the New Economy. And it came out after the financial crisis in 2008, 2009. And none of my clients lost any money because I double majored in college. I had the accounting degree and I had the finance degree. And the accounting degree taught me where to find potential problems, and I found them before everybody else. I just think I'm just lucky that I knew where to look, right? And then,
To able
yeah,
to figure out the red warning, the red flags, even before anyone came to realize the crash, especially in the real estate market.
it was more than that. Basically, if you look at the financial statements, it's a annual report is like this pretty book that a company puts out. They had pretty pictures on the front, and they talk about the people who's drowning. But all the potential issues that are in the footnotes, and for somebody who's not an accountant, footnotes are the notes in the back of the annual report. And in I was reading annual report of Citigroup or Citibank, and at the back it said we have a $50 billion loss that we have not realized and not recognized it, but soon it will be on financial statements like next quarter, next year, whatever. And when I saw that, because I lived in New York, I worked on Wall Street, I know how they all operate. They all pile into the same thing. So I went to my clients and they said, look, these guys have minus 50 and everybody else has it. And when they show it, it will be a meltdown like we've never seen before. And all of my clients agreed that it's time to move out of the market. So when I move my clients out of the market, and I tell everybody now that I had nothing to do. So I thought, how can I tell it to more people? And then I started the radio show. It was radio show on one station in Denver, Colorado. And then in 11 months, and then it was about, let's say it was in 1 year. I was in 7 different states, and some states had more than one station that was running a show. And I was talking about the facts. Look, this is the loss. This is what we're having right now, that people are getting mortgages and they're not even making their first payment, that this is the bubble. And that is how I was, somebody heard me. And then the word got out and the radio show is going, and I get this invitation and I go to New York, and I'm just this young guy. I was the youngest guy in the room. I'm an immigrant, and I just said, this is what I saw. This is how I did it. And out of that, I got an invitation to co-author, contribute to Steve Forbes's book that he was writing at the same time. And I wrote I contributed specifically. They gave me a topic on taxation. And the rest of the story. For the financial part, that's a really good summary of how I made it to the top. But I went everywhere. I worked endless hours. I didn't take any vacation. I didn't take any weekends. I allowed myself a few hours on Sunday afternoon. That's all. And I worked all the time. And I remember many years, Santa, I remember we getting to Christmas, and I would pay all the people who work for me, attorneys, accountants, all the financial guys and girls who had to get specifics done. And I'm looking at my bank account and I'm like, wow, that was nice. I am like at zero again. But next year we start. And if I call an attorney I had a Rolodex of attorneys. I knew if I pick up the phone, they will answer it, they will listen, they will give me the answers that I can rely on. And nobody's going to say, hey, Lyubim, send me a retainer, then I will start working. So by investing into the relationships, I was able over a decade plus to build enough relationships that not only I became an expert in my field, I also had an alliances. I had like an army of people who would pick up my call because they knew that if I need something done, they would get paid really well, and they would get paid. There is no question about it, because I paid everybody before I paid myself. It went on for years.
Yeah. Yes. I am so sure many of our listeners who are yet to become an entrepreneurs, specifically they should definitely take some of the highlights, some of the takeaways from, your journey. I mean, first of all, Um, do you believe that entrepreneurship is a lonely journey?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what even I also agree. And because even if we, as an entrepreneur, you have a great team, you have great people whom you can rely upon. Still, it's a different ball game altogether. It's a different journey to test the waters. And if I can draw so many parallels in an entrepreneurial journey and your journey, starting from your immigration, and then how you had to work maybe double uh, you know the people in the home country, in the country, to prove yourself that you are eligible to be a part of to be someone among them, or maybe different from them. I think it will so much connect with the future entrepreneurs as well. And then
Absolutely.
taking risks and connecting with people, networking with people, investing on relationships, not only from a monetary point of view, but from a relation and emotion point of view, connecting with them, um, uh, and respecting the people you are working with, whether it's your external stakeholders or internal stakeholders. There are so many values to actually take away from your journey. To be honest, that's what I believe, and I'm very sure our listeners will also agree with me.
I hope so, because Hannah, if you think about this, that we cannot get anything done on our own. There's so much that we have to do. The starting a business is your own thing. Then getting to a level where you have some kind of competitive advantage or something that you can offer to clients. And I'm telling, there are some people that may have nothing, that are listening to your podcast and they say, "Look, I have nothing." Well, look, you have time and you can put in the effort. So if you take your time and you put in the effort helping the right person, and you have to define what the right person for you is. If you say, "I'm just going to go and help. I'm going to help that person as much as I can. And when it's done, okay, I'll just move on and help somebody else." Now imagine you do it for a year or two or three. How big of a network you'll develop of people who know you. The reason I lived inside, I think I'm one of the exceptions, because when I go to a country, I start connecting with people right away and I don't want anything from them. I do not require anything. With all the stuff that I accomplish, I go to a new country, I start from zero. I go to a new town, I start from zero. I can talk to a billionaire and I can talk to a guy who's drinking beer on the beach every day. It doesn't matter to me though. They're people, they are people, and understanding what drives everyone requires that effort. And if you honestly not asking anything for yourself, you become the one in the few, and you're welcomed everywhere. And people wait for you to come back because they have such great experience. They say, "This guy is going to come and he's going to give, 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 give. He's not going to ask you for anything." And
Mhm.
if the world sees you like that, you just will find the same people that will do something for you. Because one of the things about America, I think Americans are the most generous people. I'm not talking about politics, I'm talking about normal people. Example,
Yeah.
I went to the States. Somebody gave me skis because I didn't bring my skis. Somebody paid my hill fees. Somebody paid my school fees. It were people giving me stuff, so I can at that time train. And then later I needed an office. Somebody gave me my first office. I said, "Look, I will train you." My friend, we became friends later. He said he had a really nice office. He wanted to become a triathlete. I said, "Look, I know athletics. I understand that, but I need space. I'm starting my business. Can I train you for your triathlon? And you give me the space." He said, "Come on, let's go." He walked me in the office. He says, "This room is empty. Empty. Would it work for you?" I was like, "Yeah." It was the best building in Denver, Colorado. It's called the Equitable Building.
Okay.
It was an attorney who had the office in the best building, and he said, "Would this work for you?" I was like, "I am starting my own business and I'm getting a space in the building where you cannot lease. You can only buy. Imagine what kind of credibility it gives to a guy who works in the financial industry. Nobody knew that I just started. Then for the next 3 years, I said 5 o'clock in the morning, you're in front of my doors. And it was like 4:55. I heard the engine. Boo, 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 boo. He showed up every day. We went, I trained him, and then we went together to the office. I taught him how an athlete lives, thinks, eats, prepares for the competitions, what you do. But I had a beautiful office and I didn't have to pay for it. You know, Sana? For me, it was so important. It was crucial.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And um uh, going, a bit further into the some of the recent years of your journey, Lobim, you have been you have seen the 9/11, and now you have founded Wings for Heroes. Um, did that idea come from what you saw during those 9/11 uh, years or the moments? W- or was it something that was in within you from the beginning itself?
9/11 was a traumatic experience in my life that made me move out of the city. I'm not a city person. That was the last straw. Like, you know, after 9/11, they shut down the roads. National Guard moved in. It looked like a war zone. And once they opened up the roads, I said, I'm done with New York. I'm going. And that was a journey on itself. I knew I was finished with New York and I went to California, then I went to Texas, and then I got to Colorado. And when I got to Colorado, it's been such a long time. Like, again, as an immigrant, you don't have a fallback. So I was homeless for a year trying to build a financial company. But everything was going into work and I could not afford the place to live. So it was more than a year going from shelter to shelter. But
Mhm.
that's what I had to do. And we asking, is it lonely to be an entrepreneur? It's lonely. It's embarrassing. It's uncertain. It's scary. And you know what? You have a higher probability of failing than succeeding if you look at the statistics. Okay. So
Yeah.
imagine if you have no place to live and you're trying to start the business and you know that it may not work, like you don't know what you're going to do now, but what happens if it doesn't work out? Then you are really in tough situation. But fortunately, I just kept, my thing is that just take the next step, next step, next step, one step. Not Don't think about solving the whole big issue that you have. Don't come up with this beautiful idea and a plan that you will just come in, push the button, and because you thought everything through, it's just going to work. The theory and the reality is like the day and night, or like Earth and the moon. So the best thing is to start right now. And I don't mean like quit your job. Just start working on whatever that business idea is right now. Because tomorrow it's going to be more expensive. You'll have more obligations. You may have kids, you may have a house or an apartment. The older we get, we have less energy and more responsibilities. And that makes it tougher to start. So there is no better day to start than today, and no better moment than like right now. Like once you hear this podcast, start working on your thing, because I and everybody who I know will die really soon. We live and act like we have forever. We don't. Watch Steve Jobs videos. Watch how that man who changed the planet, we all know Apple, right? We know iPhones, we know Macs, and they're beautiful products. But Steve Jobs left us, besides the phone, he left us a message. Every time I get up and I look in the mirror and I ask myself, do I love what I'm doing? And if the answer is no for 2 days or more, I know I'm not doing the right thing and I am done. And guess what? He died early and he left us a great company, but he also left us the vision on how he was able to get things done in such short period of time. It's all written, it's all documented, it's all on YouTube. If you cannot buy and read his book, you can go and watch his speeches for free. And that man knew that his time is limited. And that's one of my mentors, you know? That's who I learned from. Be really aware where you're spending your energy. And one thing, Sana, that is really important. I've been financially independent many times. You know, I counted more than 4 times. And then because life took me to a different direction, I was like at zero. And I have to tell you, one of the happiest times of my life were when I was homeless. Because finding an organic chicken and having a meal that you know is organic and healthy and is good for you on Christmas when you don't have a roof over your head, that is better than driving, you know, a brand new Range Rover. And I had a few of those. Having organic chicken on Christmas felt a lot better than buying a new Range Rover.
And there's your yeah. Wow. Wow. That is hard.
I didn't mean to shock you like that. I didn't mean to shock you like that. I know. I
Yeah,
told you.
no, but you know, in deep down, I mean, I don't wish that, you know, for anyone out there, but what you said, it's so much connected with me. It I wish it doesn't happen with anyone, but still sometimes you know, it's coming from right deep down from your heart that that was your happiest moment. So
And it's life experience too. You know, it's a true story. It's not something that was made up and put on Instagram and like made it look good. It really is. It was 2004, you know, it was 2004 to now it's 2025. It's 21 years ago. In my mind, we're talking about it. I can see that little room, you know, sitting on the floor because there was no table, but there was organic chicken. I think it was Redburn. I don't, the brand, but you know, it's so vivid, those memories. And
yeah.
And it's not easy. Look, it's not easy for anybody. Billionaires have so many issues. I Steve Forbes is a really cool guy. I mean, he's like a really nice grandpa. Like out of all the people that I think he's one of the nicest people. He's so soft, so kind, so helpful, so like easygoing. You know, I met him at the time when he was having health issues, but he was always like you can feel that energy. He was like light, not the guy that you see on TV. It's not like the way he's on TV and the way he's a grandpa. Like he's really like this nice grandpa. But if you think about how many issues they have and like they have really complex problems, the reason Elon Musk is the wealthiest man in the world or Jeff Bezos is because they're able to take on a huge goal and tackle all the problems that would just completely destroy most people. And they can make tough decisions and they can just move on 1, 2, 3, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000, and they don't stop. But they really emotionally, it's not easy to be a billionaire. You know, the whole world is watching you, they're coming at you, everybody, they have to solve a lot of problems. So, you know, we start small as business owners, and the more issues we solve, it's like training. You know, it's like if you train for the Olympics, nobody went to the Olympics right away. You know, first they needed to learn how to stand up. And then all Olympic champions, they took the first step. And after they learn, you know, first you crawl, then you step, then you walk, then you run. And then if you're lucky like me, you learn how to fly. What I'm saying in business, don't expect one of my best friends, he passed away now, but before he passed away, I asked him, it was 2003, 2004. I said, look, man, I really want to start my business, but I don't have the money and I don't have this and I don't have that. And he said, like, Lyubim, in your business, can you make it better for the client? I said, absolutely yes. And he said, there is nobody in the history of this planet who driven into their new business in a brand new Mercedes. Not one person got a brand new Mercedes and they went and started their own business. It's the other way around. First, you start the business, then you work, then you become successful. And if your goal is to buy a Mercedes, you can buy it. But that conversation will stay with me forever. I After that conversation, I went in, I was working for American Express and I was number one guy in our region. It was Colorado. New Mexico, and Arizona. I was number one guy. After that conversation, I went in and I resigned. I handed in my resignation. My boss looked at me like I lost my mind. I don't think he will ever understand why I gave everything up. I gave up stock options. I gave up managerial position. I gave up the blue box. The American Express blue box is the big name in the financial industry, and it gives you a lot of credibility. And I left with nothing. And I'm really glad I did it. It was 2000, same area, 2003, 2004. We're talking about 21 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And like, imagine if I did it now. I'm going to be 50 next month. Then I would have to travel the same road, and I would be what, 80? I, that energy, the useful energy that you have then. Um, by the way, I found it now by working. My life is dedicated for people who protected us, and I get up every day at 4 o'clock, and I don't even set up the alarm. Like, I try to sleep, but I can't because I have to solve somebody's issues and I have to save lives. And that gets me out of bed like I'm 17-year-old training for the Olympics. So if you lost something, if it's really meaningful, if the compass in your heart, in your gut, whatever you feel it, that feeling that says, you got to do it, man. You got to do it. You have to do it. It's one life and we will all be gone. I don't know. Hopefully not tomorrow, but even if we live to till 100, right? It's not a long time.
Well, I don't have any words to add into because this is listeners from the hard hearing experiences. It cannot be made up. It cannot be you know synthetic, or it cannot be fabricated. It is.
Right. You cannot dream it up. But actually, it was my goal to leave you speechless because I had such a great conversation last time. I enjoyed it so much. And we're talking about business. And I'm saying, look, I'm an immigrant. So people who are listening to me, they may think about immigrating. I had nothing and I accomplished such big goals that people who have everything would love to accomplish it, right? So I said, I'm just going to go and tell you, look, this is how it was. I was homeless. I had nothing. I was suffering. I did this. I worked for free. At the end of the year, I would work, 14 hour, 15 hour, whatever it took. No vacation, no weekends, nothing. And it was zero at the bank. That's how it's running your own business. That's what it's like. And then it was one time when I had this idea, to start a radio show. It changed everything for me. Like from the financial point of view, a year after I started my radio show, it like changed my financial life. But before that, I went through a lot of suffering, a lot of moving, a lot of trying, a lot of failing, a lot of learning, a lot of rejection, loneliness. You just carry that. And if you have somebody else, and if you have kids, wow, man, I don't even know how people who have kids can start a business because like when you're a teenager or 20, 25, right? And you have no responsibilities, no mortgage, nothing, right? Well, like that's difficult. But when you have obligations, it becomes more and more difficult. So yeah, what I am saying is that the reason you have to do it now because there is no better time and there is no other time because our time here is very limited. We just get a few decades if we're lucky to get big goals done and they take time.
No. So before we wrap up, Lyubim, if our listeners would like to connect with you, what will be the best way?
The best place is to go wingsforheroes.org. And wings is plural, four is number four, and heroes are plural too. I think you do put up a link.
Yep.
Do you put up a link, Sana? Yeah, so just the link will take you to my website, and there's a contact button. And if you hit it, believe it or not, I'm the guy who's going to reply to you. So, of course, if I get buried with questions, it will take me some time to reply and I will have to deal with it later. But for now, let's just say wingsforheroes.org, contact button, write me, hey, I heard you on Sana's show. You said we can write you. I am trying to do blah, blah, blah. Do you have any ideas? Like that.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. And thank you so much, Lobim. I mean, so many life lessons we learned. Sometimes people say that it's better to learn from others' mistakes and their journey to rather than to make one yourself and learn from your own mistakes.
Yeah.
So
I think one thing that's a just start. Just start. If you have the drive inside, just start. And I want to thank you, Sana, for creating this kind of environment because our day and age, it was more when I came to the States, but now with social media and such, when I went to the States, it was a big deal to make 1 million a year. Now everybody wants to make 1 billion. And probably in another decade, it will be 1 trillion. So the numbers just keep adding zeros, but it's hard to find a place where people connect. And I think what you're doing is extremely important. And since I had the conversation and I felt that from the first time we spoke that you care about your listeners and you want to add value, I really, I said, I'm hanging out all the laundry and see what happens. So I'm glad that I'm glad that it was valuable to you, and I hope that there is at least one person who heard the show who will start, and sometime down the road they'll say, "I heard that and I did it," and maybe you should start today too. So I wish everybody who's listening to this great luck, and I have 100% faith in you. And if you ever doubt that you may not have something, you have everything. There is no way that this universe will leave you. There will be some magic that will show up. So if one time we do a show on magic, I'll tell you a lot of magic that came my way on my journey.
I know the right one for that. I know the right one for that. We'll definitely talk about it. But before that, I'll quickly wrap up this episode, although I didn't want to. So, listeners, what does it mean to lead with no spotlight, no script, and no safety net? Well, today we found out it means leading from truth, from heart, from the quiet conviction that purpose is more powerful than position. So, to all our listeners, if you are navigating uncertainty or building from rubble, remember this, that legacy isn't built when the world is watching. It is built when you decide to show up anyway. So, to learn more about wingsforheroes.org, just refer to the show notes. If you want to support this mission of radical resilience, just check out the show notes along with this episode. Until next time, I invite all of you to stay bold, stay human, and keep blending what matters the most. Thank you.